Okay, speaking of older gentlemen, there's one named Kelvin Sampson who I consider the best coach left in this tournament, just on longevity and been there and done that at so many places in so many ways. How much of a factor do you think he is in this game? Not to take any, I'm taking nothing away from Coach Shire, but just on longevity and wisdom and experience.
I think the longevity, wisdom, and experience helps in preparation. It certainly can help in decisions that are made in game, but I tend to think a lot of that is maybe overstated. There aren't a lot of coaches that are going to draw up a new play during the course of a game. They're usually going to go with what they've taught and what they've prepared, and they may tweak it. They may say, "Look, on this play, slip that screen instead of setting it." There are certain things you can do in the course of a game, but Kelvin's a rock. I've known him for a long, long time, and he's one of the not only the people but coaches I respect most because he's never changed what his core principles are. He's changed a lot of things, but his core principles are the same as they've always been. And his teams are always tough. They don't always win every game. Nobody does that. But they're going to be ultra prepared. And I think the experience that they had last year, falling short to Duke, is going to fuel them in their preparation. I don't think that stuff helps once the game goes on. I don't think this crusade business during the 40 minutes or 40 plus really helps. I think it helps in sharpening your preparation. And I think they're going to be sharpened by what happened to them last year because I do think last year they were the better team. This year, I don't think they are. I think they're better in certain aspects of the game. But Duke overall is more talented and they're better. And it's going to take an extraordinary effort on Houston's part, but I think they're up to it.
Okay. Now let's look at the other semifinal. And speaking of what happened last time, February 5th at Auburn, Florida did a number on Auburn, was up 21 and won by 9, 90-81. How much stock do you put in that game as it impacts this game?
Similar for Auburn in that it's a sharpening tool for them. That last time they played Florida, they got beat at home. Florida didn't have Elijah Martin, their second leading scorer, in that game. And I called the game with Dan Shulman. And I thought, okay, well, Auburn's at home. They're full strength. They're going to win. And they got up like 9 or 10-0. And Florida wound up kind of going away. I didn't expect Florida to be dribbling the clock out, short down a man as important as Elijah Martin. And I think Todd Golden there, who used to be an assistant to Bruce Pearl years ago, has done an extraordinary job with that team. Their personnel is probably a little bit better than Auburn's. Their guards are the equal of Auburn's, which is saying something. And they have more big guys. They're different teams, but they're two of the very best teams in the country, and they know each other really well. If they were playing somebody else, like one of the things that the challenges that Duke has in this are Duke hasn't played in a lot of close games. And how are they going to respond when they're in a really close game of this magnitude when they haven't lived there? The other three teams are not only older generally, their key guys are older, but they live in close games. I don't think and who knows how people are going to respond under that kind of pressure. But I think that's an advantage to the other three if it gets down to the end of a game. Now, is that going to carry the day? Who knows? But it is an advantage. It's a check mark in their favor. But I think the Auburn Florida game is a coin flip. I think it's going to come down to rebounding, frankly, and I think it's going to come down to and turnovers have been an issue a little bit for Florida, but Florida's got something that Auburn doesn't. They've got Walter Clayton Jr., who is everything breaks down. He can actually go get a bucket by himself. And not many teams have that kind of player, and they've got him.
Man, Jay, I thought they were cooked against Texas Tech. They're down 10 with 5 minutes to go, and Toppin has a wide open three and was just a little long back iron. If that goes down, it's 13, and then they're up 9 with 3 or so minutes left, 3:14 left. And And Florida can flurry like nobody can flurry, especially because of Walter Clayton Jr. And he just takes over and wills it, and he willed that one home.
He did. But they also had down 9 with 3 minutes to go. Thomas Houck, their sophomore big guy, knocks down 2 threes.
He did.
One of the most important things in that. So in any type of scenario where you've got a comeback like that, you've got a team in Texas Tech's position where there were a couple things they didn't do that had they done, we wouldn't be talking about this. Texas Tech missed the front end of 2 1-and-1.
Yep.
And they make those, even if they make 2 of those, 2 of the 4 free throws they could have had.
Agreed.
It may be a different outcome.
I agree.
That's sort of how this thing works.
Yeah.
But I think it's got to be a confidence builder for Florida that they will feel like they're never out of it. The flip side of that is, you can't get down 9 too many times against these caliber of teams with 3 minutes to go. You get down 9 against Auburn or down 9 against Duke or Houston. Don't expect to come back from that.
And by the way, what is Broom's NBA ceiling in your eyes?
I think he'll play in the NBA, but I think his game is a little bit different than the NBA demands now. 20 years ago, I think you would see him valued a little bit differently. But right now, it's a spread court. Can you knock down a 3 and stretch the defense type of game? Drew Timme, who played at Gonzaga and one of the great college players I've seen, they're going, I don't know about him in the NBA. Who's he going to guard? And then they called him up. He gets called up while he's playing in the G League, gets called up while he's playing, FIFA video game, goes in the NBA, and he's done extraordinarily well.
He has.
And so there are spots in the NBA. It doesn't mean that, like, Cooper Flagg is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
There's some thought that needs to go into Johni Broome, but as far as do you draft him? But I think he will play in the NBA because he can rebound. He's a unique talent. But I don't see anybody taking him in the first round. The game's changed.
Okay, interesting. Good perspective. And then there's Coach Pearl, who you know very well and you've worked closely with. Describe him in your eyes as a basketball coach.
One of the true greats. This is a really odd one. So when I was growing up in Southern California, one of the places I visited was Stanford. And I committed to Duke in December, but there was only one signing period back then. It was in April. So I couldn't sign. I had to wait till April. And the coach that recruited me at Stanford got fired. And Dr. Tom Davis took the job, and Bruce Pearl was one of his assistants. So Stanford called me to see if I would still have interest in Stanford, if I'd be willing to sort of reopen my recruitment. And I said no. The coach that called me, and it was his first recruiting call ever, was Bruce Pearl.
That's a good story.
I was his first recruiting call ever. So
you turned him down.
Things have definitely improved. He's called better players since his first call. But, Bruce, when I was doing the NCAA tournament with CBS years ago, he was at Milwaukee. And I called one of his games in the tournament and really got to know him then. I was like, man, this guy's really good, and had a lot of Tom Davis stuff in his arsenal, a lot of that, flex stuff, which they still run today. And he's extraordinarily well prepared. He's an unbelievable salesperson.
He is.
For his program and for the game. And he really demanding, but at the same time, he will. Like he's got a player on his team named Chad Baker Mazzara, who he refers to as he's crazy, but he's my crazy. So he'll work with the stuff that other coaches might not tolerate.
Yeah.
But he coaches the whole person and gets the best out of these guys. And I think, honestly, Skip, I knew when he took the Auburn job, I knew he would do well. I did not imagine he would do this.
Like this, yeah.
Not close. That's to me, it's Bruce at Auburn and Jim Calhoun at UConn have created something out of nothing, more so than any coaches I could think of.
I don't know Bruce the way you do, but I know him a little enough to say he has great, and I don't want this to come off wrong, but he has great con artistry, as in a very positive way. He knows how to push the right buttons in college kids, and they're still themselves, but they do as he says. They play disciplined basketball while remaining personalities, and I love that about him because to me he's the best motivator in college basketball. That's what it comes down to.
I think that's right, and part of that might be because he's a personality. He's a character, which a lot of people like to say we don't have anymore. But like Bruce would have been an unbelievable salesperson, and it's not just what he has garnered out of his players. He's sold that program to the masses. Like now, that's an unbelievably tough ticket at Auburn. It's sort of in the realm of a football ticket. Like you can't get in that building, and everybody's really excited. I never thought I'd see that out of that, and that's happened throughout the league. But he's really sold that and sold SEC basketball. He's been as big of a catalyst for the rise in SEC basketball as anything. That's how strong of a personality he is in that regard.
Okay, to sum it up, you're sticking with Houston and then Florida to win it all, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to change because I don't. If I saw something that I thought would change my mind, because it's not like I was crazy confident about it when I picked it on Selection Sunday, but I figured why not just stay with it? I don't really think about it like who's going to win that much. It's more, man, this is going to be, God, I'm going to go back and watch the tapes of the games that the teams played. I don't know. I'll probably watch the Houston Duke game from last year. I don't know how much that's going to tell me, but I'll do it anyway. But I've called enough of their games all year long to have a good feeling for what could happen. But I can't wait to see it. I mean, to me, you couldn't ask for anything better than what we're going to get in San Antonio.